Good morning, team, and welcome back. Today is Tuesday, October 17th. As always, if there's any tickers that you'd like to review, go ahead and post those in chat. Let me jump into the private client fund. Getting a little bit of a gap down on SPY. You can see we've still just kind of traded sideways over the past week and a half over under 435. With some pulls and bounces, still trying to reclaim or hold that level. Some of the other tickers are still kind of heavy. We've got earnings on Netflix and Tesla this week. Slight gap down on Nvidia. Bringing some more profit. SMCI as well. ZS. AMD. Obviously, a lot of tandem on the semiconductor sector. Taking some more profit out of coin and adding back as well. We got that fast spike yesterday on coin and MSTR, where we were able to add some short equity and short calls. Just ripped off of the open. Figured it wouldn't hold the day, but it actually gave up a lot faster than I expected. You can see that retest into 79s and pulled back under 75s and closed in or gapping down this morning into 74. MSTR had even better range on it, but really nice to see. I mentioned we had the alerts out over 330 for a retest of 335. As soon as I saw that spike, I was selling into the short calls and adding equity. And then again, gave up pretty quick on the day. 25 points off of high of day and still right back to the middle of the bands, just under VWAP and trying to hold sideways or better. You can see we still have alert out to the downside, just below 285. To the upside after that last one fired off, still to 415. Which is pretty far. I don't think it's going that high at all, but any test back into the high band, which is right around 330s, then I'm still looking to add and just progressively take profit. I am also going to sell some more ARM today in tandem with the rest of the semis. I'll write some more calls on this as well. We saw that bounce into 55s where I was adding into the short 55 calls along with equity. We got that pretty good gap down and sell off the next day where I was already covering. We did tap into 50s where I covered some more, and I did add a little bit yesterday, but not enough to affect the average. Today, I think I'm going to put some more on it. We will look at probably, I've got enough short term. I'm going to go a little bit longer term. January 5250s or 50s are the 54 to 61 delta. If it's a new start, you can still look at selling the $60 calls at the 33 delta. They were about 235 a piece yesterday at the close. I think we'll just continue building into these. It's finally starting to draw the bands and hold that sideways action. Again, off of the IPO, it was a 10-15 point rip. Gave it up within a couple of days and has not been able to reclaim those first week IPO lows. We'll still continue selling premium, risking bounces, and seems low risk in tandem with everything else. DKNG has still been chopping around the $30 mark. I'm going to be selling some more of this today as well. We got those bounce off of 2750 into 31. We were adding back to the short on that progressive move over 30. We saw it fail back into 28s and bounce a little bit yesterday. It's still sideways action at the highs on the year when we would typically see seasonality wise, a little bit of sideways action through the end of the month. Attempt at the beginning of November that rolls over and makes new lows into the end of the year. I am going to continue building short premium. We do have earnings coming up on November 2nd. And I'll probably just stay a little bit farther out. We can look at like 35s into January again. I'm going to sell through earnings. The deltas on this are pretty good as well. 35 is the 33 delta. It was about 155 yesterday. You can see pretty heavy on the open interest, over 12,000 contracts open, and they've started ramping up on the 30s as well. The 30 strike is about 335 yesterday, and that's a 55 delta with 19,000 open interest. There's still room to try and hold and bounce. High end of the bands is 31 on the daily chart, 31.65. I think we'll just see, anytime it's got these kind of upside moves since summer, we've seen just sideways action after that, right? Just continued decay on premium on both sides. I'm not as interested in the short put side, just in case it does crack off a little bit harder. If it's able to hold sideways and earnings are good, it might actually break out. You can take both sides if you want to reduce the risk a little bit, but I'm still swing short the equity and short the calls. Roblox as well, kind of similar. We got that push back into 30s. And added into that, I've already taken a little bit of initial profit on the gap down and sell off yesterday and the day before. I think I'll continue selling into these. We were still looking for a retest over 33s into 35s. There's room for that. Again, I think, over the next little bit, it's going to be sideways, kind of flat to lower. We do have earnings on November 8th. If we look at seasonality, typically see a run into the end of the month that rolls over into November, making new lows for December, right? Still selling out of the money, call premium. We still have room to close that gap, and we might get a faster spike that does that. I wouldn't mind that for some additional juiced up premium. I'll do a little bit more in December at the 3250s, which are about 245 a piece at the 45 delta. The 35 strike was about 165 yesterday at the 35 delta. I'm definitely going to be selling some more January as well. For those, I'll probably go at the money and use the 30s. If it's a new start, the 3750s are the 31 delta into January. Taking a little bit of equity right now, short on Roblox. I'll be selling some more Hele, Hele. Another retail name. We saw the sideways action over 315s. Sorry, over 115s. As that went sideways and broke down, we were already covering into 100s. We saw a bit of a bounce and a little bit of a gap up with continuation over the last week. I did sell some more 115s on that initial ramp on Friday. We got a little bit of a move yesterday that sold off after hours, and we're opening up with a gap down. I'll be taking some more profit out of this. Equity right now is only 4.9% profit, 4-figure win from a 113 average, 113.92. Yeah, I'll look at selling more 115 and 110 calls. 110s into January. We're over 850 yesterday. They were at the 55 delta. Those are going to gap down and crush a little bit. The new start, if you're starting something new, you can go with the 120s at the 36 delta for about 450 a piece yesterday. Even farther out on that, there's still some all right premium. I'll sell some more of that. It's a little thinner traded on the options. Typically, we would see a pull into the beginning of November and then a bounce through the end of the year. I think it's a little less likely this year, but still leaving room to retest that upper band, 115 to 125s. If we don't hold up and we do continue to break down, we still have an alert at the low end, just under 95s. We'll look at taking some more profit if we fail 100s, and otherwise let time do the work. GameStop sold off a bit more yesterday. We're pushing into 14% on equity again, swing short after the new average adds back. We talked about the bounce over 15, looking for a retest of 1650s. Didn't quite get there, but I was adding on that push, and we did sell off Friday and gap down yesterday, kind of closed flat on the day. I think there's still room on this as well. I wouldn't mind a little bit bigger bounce that gets us back over VWAP and that 1650 level. There's still time and potential for it. Yeah, just really not seeing any follow through. I could see a little bit of a trap and some bounce through November, but should roll over by December and make new lows again as well. We'll just continue progressively scaling out and adding back with swing short equity and short calls. As far as new starts, see how far decayed some of these are and what strike I want next. Everything I have is short 21s into April, 64%, short 25s into January, 92%, short 20s into January, 77%, short 25s into November, 98%. I'll finalize those today. There's others throughout the 50, 60, 70, 80% range that I'll continue taking progressive profit on. If it's a new start, the 32 delta is at the 1750 call strike for December. You can look at that. I'm going to go a little bit farther out into January and April, probably staying right at the money. April 15s were 250 yesterday at a 58 delta. The 36 delta would be the 20 strike. For January 15s, 185 yesterday at the 54 delta. The 31 delta is an 1875 strike. Still time and room on those to continue collecting premium and letting that fade over time. I need to add in some more HT as well. These got crushed really quick, actually. On the last bounce back into 40s, we were adding back, selling the $40 calls, looking for those to stay out of the money. I still have 50s and 45s as well, but those are all 85, 95, 97% plus wins. Adding back into the 40s, we've seen that progressively sell off into 35s. There was a little bit of a bounce yesterday, didn't really go anywhere. I think there's still room and time to sell over that 37.50 mark on a new start, risking bounces. This one's every $5. It'll have to be 35s or 40s. I'm actually going to go out into the next year. They don't have anything past January this year. I'm going to do some more leaps if they're able to tighten it up at the 35 strike. Otherwise, I will continue selling into the 35 and 30 strikes for January. Just with the amount of profit that I have in play, I've got to start some new ones. Really good progressive wins on that. Got some finals on cold. We're starting to see nat gas and the others selling off. We talked about building back into BOIL on the bounce as well. We have profit there. These are 81 and 97% wins on cold. We've just seen there was no retest of 65s as it was over 60s. We were building in short with a range from 70s all the way down to 50s, looking for those to go out of the money, which they did. We've seen as low as 43s. We bounced back towards 50s. I'm going to cover some more of these today and look at selling some more 50 to 55s. And there are a lot of strikes on this one, pretty good premiums, and the deltas are very far out, right? Again, this one is a ProShares ultra short. And the 35 delta is at the 70 strike, 71 strike. I'm going to be selling into 55s. And for January, those are still over 800 to 900 a piece at the 54 delta. I'm going to be doing a lot more of like we talked about, the ETFs, just because of the amount of strikes that they have and the liquidity on them and the range of the deltas, like we were talking about with AMC, right? BOIL. We're talking about selling back into that 55 spike. I added more at 65 and a lot more at 70. I left an alert out for 75 and there was no retest. As 70s broke down, I was already getting initial profit into 67s. I added back on the bounce over 70 and we've sold off to 65 since then. So you can see kind of the sideways action and the rejection of 69.85s, a little bit of trapping there. Bull trap, and once it rolled over, we're back down to 64s. This can still hold up on the year. You know, typically we see a much stronger spike at the end of November, but I've built in enough time and progressive profits on this. We're already taking exits. I'll watch it to the upside, but I think we'll see continued fade to the downside over the next couple of weeks. And that should give us enough time to scale out of a lot of these before expirations. we'll see where it goes towards the end of the year. All right, we're gonna switch up the sessions a little bit. I think we can pretty much cover everything in that half hour, 40 minutes pre-market. There's not a lot to add after the bell. I do need to switch around my daily schedule a bit, and I'm being more active in the afternoons as far as real estate and with conference calls and other commitments. My workout's going to switch back to the morning again, and I'm going to start going right after the open within 15, 20 minutes, get all my orders out, and then be done for the morning, get to the gym. I'll come back and check in about an hour and a half to 2 hours after the market opens, and then just progressively taking profit throughout the day and working off of price alerts and order entry alerts or order fills. We'll keep doing the half hour pre-market. I'll be available for you for questions after that. That should give you plenty of time to make plans, throughout the week. I'm going to keep doing those on Tuesday and Thursday. Then we might open up an extra session on Wednesday. I've got some inquiries from some other clients, potential clients that are outside of the US. Maybe we'll do a more consistent Wednesday afternoon session, right? What I'm seeing with selling a lot more premium and managing it over the last year and a half, especially, is, it should only take you 30 to 60 minutes a week. You can pretty much pick what days you want to show up, right? Fridays are really good for locking extra premium and starting new positions into the weekend. My focus will be there a little bit more than it has been, but also Mondays and Wednesdays are pretty good for getting those key reversals on the week, right? Like you can see topping out on Wednesday, a little bit of a rug pull and a bounce. That was the start of the reversal side. Often we'll see, a peak on the week or a low on the week into Wednesday or Thursday for potential reversal on Friday. Those are lower risk trades that you can take on a shorter time frame as well. We'll see where we go after that. We've got news on Lucid down 5.8%, failing $5. Going to continue selling into this. I'm going to cover a little bit more right now and add some back. We talked about selling the 5 to 750 calls. So looking for those to go out of the money, right? And the fact that this is, pretty much done. So let's cover some more and add back. Let's see what Rivian is doing as well. Yeah, I'm going to do the same on that. We kept adding into this on that bounce into 20, and you can see the sideways action for the last week. Starting to reject a little bit off of that. With news or another catalyst, we could still get some moves to the upside. Again, the out of the money call premium on this is pretty decent and very low risk over time. We haven't stopped since the initial IPO, really, selling premium. And it's been killer wins across the board for the private client fund and the vacation fund. We'll keep going with what works. Selling some more Qualcomm as well. I gave you guys that in chat. What else? Let's still add some more ARM equity. All right, we will wrap up stream as the market opens, and I'll still be available for questions throughout the day. I'm adding a little bit more to CVNA short as well. CVNA, CAR, and Hertz still all swing short in tandem with each other. We mapped out those higher levels on the push up, and you can see the rejection, double top rejection of 55s. As it failed 45s, we were already taking profit and adding back, continued adding through 40s. There was no retest of 45s. We failed into the lower band of 35s, continuing to lock profit this week. Not much of a bounce. I think over time, we'll still see that continue to fail in tandem with the entire sector. Hertz, Carvana, obviously. I'm waiting for a little bit bigger bounce on CVNA. On CAR, we started to get an initial one back into 180s, and I did sell some 185s there. We've gone sideways off of that action and already taken some profit. On the gap down and sell off, there was a bit of a bounce yesterday pre-market, which kind of just faded most of the day. We still have not retested that alert at 192s. Still risking some bounces and potential into there. Typically, we would see a stronger run through October and November, and we've seen very muted action so far. We do have earnings coming up on the 1st of November, probably flat until we get some better news. We'll see how it goes over the next month or so. Manchester United as well. Gave this one for free on X. We were talking already. Well, we've sold on the spikes of 25s. Everything previously expired as full wins. Then we got the gap down and started back into it. Let's see. It was this day on the rejection of 20s. I posted in chat that it was down and bouncing, and I was shorting into it. You can see there was no retest of 20s over 55, just adding back into the 20 zone. Then we got another gap down yesterday that went all the way to 15s as it was over 18 pre-market. In the morning, I added back a little bit as well. Right now, the average on equity is 9.3%. I'm just looking for that to break down the 1750s, get back into the 15 zone over time. This one's kind of thinly traded and a bit choppy, but I think we'll see some more sell pressure come in here. And we've got earnings on the 17th. I don't think it's going to affect it too much this year, but there is a gap up potential to close back over VWAP at 2050 mark. We'll see how that goes as well. All right, Milton, looking at Generac. I think you can still sell the out of the money calls we talked about on the bounces over 115s and 110s. You can see there was no retest of 125s, and we've just progressively slid to the downside on that. We did talk about selling the puts under 95 or 85 as well. I think there's still room and time for that also. Should get a little bit of a bounce into November, but possibly rolling over into the end of the year. I think we've sold off a little bit more than usual from the highs, and there's still room to kind of hold these lows and bounce a bit. We might see a stronger ramp through earnings if they're good. I'm going to continue taking profit out of the short call side. And as we get closer to earnings, consider selling some of the puts. That is on November 1st as well. John still in France. That's awesome. You guys send us more pictures, man. I want to see this, see your travels. John, as far as NVIDIA, there was news on some of the China tickers and the semis. Let's see. Yeah, US tightening AI chip exports to China, just affecting their ability to sell there. That's a lot more than it was when I saw it earlier. So yeah, pretty good gap down, sell off on continuation. I'm going to take some more profit out of this too. Let's see if I can get a projection yet on the short calls. We're going to open here, and I do need to get these orders out and run. Let me know if you have any other questions. I'm here for you all day, mobile, and I'll let you know any other entries that I take. That's pretty much the plan for the day. All right, team. Trade safe as always. Have an awesome day. We'll be back live on Thursday, potentially tomorrow. I'll let you know if I can do an afternoon or a morning session. Thanks so much. Have an awesome day.